Hi, and welcome to Financial Solutions. I'm your host, Mark Rigney. On today's program, we're going to focus on those borrowers who wish to construct a custom-built home. A custom-designed home is created specifically for the family which will live there. Now, building a home should begin long before the foundation is poured. There are many different pitfalls in constructing your own home, and there are important steps you must take to avoid costly mistakes during the construction process. Some of those steps should include planning a budget, choosing a lot, interviewing builders, and negotiating contracts. The tips we give you here today can save you a tremendous amount of money, time, and stress, and go a long way to getting you into the house of your dreams the right way. In our studio today, we have a home construction expert, Will Jacobs. Mr. Jacobs will advise us on those all-important steps that we should take into consideration when taking on a project of this magnitude. Hi, Will, and thanks for being here today. We're excited to have you.
Thanks, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here.
Will, what are some of the things to consider when we want to build a home as opposed to buying a spot home or a home that's already been built?
Well, that's a good question. The inventory right now is down, so a lot of families can't find a home in their school district, or they can't find a home that suits their particular situation. However, they can find a home in a neighborhood that they want to be in for housing or near relatives or such.
Like a lot, you're saying?
A lot, or a tear down, a home that's smaller or obsolete. It was built 60 years ago.
A tear down and build.
All right, so they might want to buy that property, tear it down and build, so they're in the school district they want their children in, or they're convenient to their work.
Family members, stuff like that.
Community members, so if their kids are in school and they want to stay in that district, or they want to customize a home to suit their needs, and there's just nothing else available out there.
Okay.
So that's the major reason is for location.
When they start looking at this project, should they take on that expense of hiring an architect? I mean, these architects can be very, very expensive. Should they take on that, or should they let somebody else do that for them? What's your opinion on that?
Well, it all starts with the scope of your project. If it's going to be a multi-million-dollar home, which we see a lot in Alexandria, Arlington, McLean, that's advisable to get recommendations, and I would start with an architect or a realtor. If you're going to build something smaller in scale, there's a lot of builders out there who have they have plans and specs for 4 or 5 different models that might suit your situation better, and it's less expensive. They've streamlined the process. So, depending on the size of your project and the home you want to build, it would behoove you to sometimes use an architect.
Okay. There are some alternatives to buying an architect, though, right? You said builders. Do builders have already like housing planners? How does that work?
A lot of the builders that we work with have on their websites, they have their basic designs, and if you own a lot or you've got in mind what you want to build, you can semi-customize them, and it's pretty streamlined. You don't need to go to the expense of an architect. Some of the builders have already paid for the architecture, the plans, and they've built those houses before, so they know exactly what it'll entail to build.
Do you think it's smart for them to pick a builder from that county or that community, or can they go outside that community, in your opinion?
Well, that's a good question. That's like getting an appraiser from outside the community.
They're just not as knowledgeable about the structure.
The laws. Each county has different laws, permitting processes. I've seen it turn into a nightmare when you bring somebody from outside their area of expertise. So, if you're building in Fairfax, you pretty much want to get somebody who's built before. And again, that's part of the process is interviewing past customers of that builder, the builders you narrow it down to.
Right.
But no, I wouldn't bring somebody down from Frederick, Maryland to build in McLean or Arlington.
Right.
I would definitely stick with somebody who's got local expertise.
Okay. Now, sometimes these borrowers, they need to raise capital. Is it necessary that they have to sell their current home while their new home is being built, or are there alternatives there?
Well, that's a good question. A lot of the bigger banks make you put the cash up front if you don't own the lot currently.
Okay.
In our case, our company, First Heritage, what we'll do is we'll cross-collateralize your current home.
Explain cross-collateralize. A lot of borrowers may not know what that means.
If you have a lot of equity in your home,
okay,
and you want to access that to that equity to put down on your new project.
You're allowed to borrow against the equity you have in your current home?
Yes.
That's called cross-collateralized?
Right. We will cross-collateralize your current property
Okay.
to help defray the out-of-pocket expenses. You'll still have to come up with a 10 or 15% down payment
Okay.
on the lot and the hard costs, but we will allow you, instead of liquidating your home or selling it, we'll allow you to live in it while you build your new home, and we'll just attach it. When you sell your home, you'll pay down your loan. And
Now they can't borrow that, you mentioned a 10 to 15% down payment. They can't borrow those funds. They have to have those funds in saving, like Seasons Fund, if you will?
yeah, they'll need their down payment seasoned in the bank for at least 60 days. So it takes quite a bit of planning to get your finances together, and it's always better to make sure your finances are in order before you start contracting with a builder.
Can a potential borrower buy the land or the lot and build the house utilizing one loan, or is there going to be a couple steps to that process?
They can absolutely buy the dirt, as we call it, and then
Okay.
build their home with one loan, one acquisition construction loan. Probably about 50% of the people do that. They actually,
Is that a cheaper process?
well, it's always cheaper when you own the land currently
Right, right.
and you have equity in it. But if you don't, yeah, it's very, you know, you pay. It's very difficult to buy the home, then wait 6 months, then get with the bank, and then get with the contract. It's better to get it all planned out. You know, it might take 6 to 8 months, but at least you're doing it properly.
Okay. If you're going to, you know, if you're out selecting, looking for lots to potentially, how important is the landscape of that lot?
Oh, it's critical.
It's
I mean,
critical?
I have a case where down in Springfield, Virginia, you know, it's not too far out, and the previous owner, the bank owns it now, but the previous owner had torn down the property without county.
They were doing a tear down and build, as you mentioned
And they
earlier?
ran out of money, and the bank took the property back. But when they tore down the property, they didn't go to the county and get a permit to do that. So now the county's they're very hesitant to let anybody build on that land.
Wow. So that throws
So-
the process dead in its tracks.
It delayed us by about 4 weeks because we had to contract with an appraiser who, number one, would accept the job to appraise the property, and then number two, verify that it was actually buildable. So the appraiser did go out and do some extra work, and of course they charged us. But
Is that right?
it wasn't, you know, it was $500, but they found, you know, they told us exactly what the gentleman could build on and the restrictions, and it's buildable, but it was touch and go there for a minute.
You mentioned obtaining a permit. What are some of the other legalities to concern when you're out, you know, driving through the neighborhoods looking for a lot to buy? What are some other things that people should keep in mind before they put that money down on that lot?
Well, they need a feasibility study. They need to see, you know, how much is it going to cost to connect to water and sewer?
Who does the feasibility study?
Well, usually they're working with a realtor to secure a lot.
Okay.
The realtor is going to do their due diligence, say, you know, can we connect to the public water
Okay.
and sewer? I mean,
So
and
that's why having a knowledgeable real estate agent is critical.
oh yeah, absolutely, and
especially to that
knowledgeable,
area.
knowledgeable, who's actually done the whole process, because
Okay.
there's a lot of realtors out there. It's the old 20-80. 20% of the realtors do 80% of the business, but there's only probably about 5% of that 20% that actually have gone through a acquisition, construction, transaction in their career. So it's imperative that you get the right people lined up. You know, and if you get with a bank initially, I mean, we'll tell you, we'll say, look, you got to, you know, if you're looking at a lot, we'll review it,
Okay.
and we'll make sure that it's what you want to build is doable.
So the bank actually plays a role in it too.
Oh yeah, we're not going to put out money on a piece of land that we're not convinced that it's buildable.
So they should actually come to you and apply for the loan prior to even putting money down to buy the lot?
Yeah, I mean, they should get with their financial institution or us as soon as, you know, I would say stage one.
Stage
and then
one.
say, you know, here's what we're looking to do, here's the area we're looking to, and we'll either recommend a couple of realtors and a couple of builders who we work with.
Okay.
And if you have your own builder, we'll certainly work with them, and yeah, we'll walk them through the whole process, because, you know, we're putting out
Yeah,
we're putting out the majority of the money, so we
Right,
want to make
$500,000,
sure that,
whatever.
well, yeah, and we want to make sure that our money, you know, our investment is solid. Last thing we want to do is put out money on a project that's we're not going to see to fruition, and then our shareholders would not like that.
But it is possible to buy a piece of land prior and then want to build a home on it. But man, you better be darn careful.
Yeah, I mean, with setbacks and ordinances changing, they don't change all the time, but they change. And it's, we have a lot of people who inherited lots or inherited dirt, as we call it, and, you know, they just have to get with a builder or a site person that's knowledgeable and can tell you, hey, this is the setbacks from the edge of your property. Everything's pretty much buildable, but it's just how much it's going to cost.
Right, right.
So, you know, do you have access to public sewer and water, or you're going to have to drill a well?
Does the bank get involved with that process too?
Well, we
or does
have.
the builder take on the majority of those responsibilities?
If you already own a piece of property and you don't know whether that's done or not, it's probably best to get with a professional survey. You know, a couple of builders. You know, interview a couple of builders, and they'll tell you whether or not, in their opinion, you know, they have local knowledge that most.
Now the architect, he couldn't do that though. The architect.
Well, there's some architects that could. I mean, if
Okay.
you're going to have a large project, they have people that they work with at the courthouse, and they, you know, they have the expertise to get that done and make sure your project's going to go through fruition. I mean, us as the bank, we want to be doubly sure because it's our money.
Right.
The majority of it's our money. We want to make sure it's going to.
Yeah. Sounds like it could be a very long process. How long does it take to close on a construction or renovation loan?
Well, that's interesting. We've closed them in as quick as 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
Man, how do you get the architect involved, the bank to approve the loan, the landscape? How do you do all that in 3 weeks?
Well, I mean, these people had been with another bank who changed their guidelines. They had their plans and specifications.
So they had the majority of the work.
The work was 100%
Before the foundation
done.
was poured, they had all that in line.
Yeah, we sent out our appraiser to verify that the costs were in line and verify the value was there and the comparable sales were there. So it closed in 3 weeks, and they went from being extremely frustrated to they're just about done with building. I mean, thankfully it wasn't a harsh winter, so they built pretty quick.
Now that was on one end of the spectrum. How about the other end of the spectrum, from start to finish? How long does the whole process take? What's some of the longer processes take?
Oh, some of the bigger homes can take up to 15, 16 months.
Oh, really? Wow.
You know, not this previous winter, but the winter before when we had all that snow, I mean, that delayed everything by month and a half, 2 months, just because of the volume of the snow, and you know, people couldn't work, and traditionally you can't dig a foundation during the middle of the winter.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've seen them, you know, as far out as 18 months, but you know, there's a lot of contractors that are hungry and that will work fast.
Okay.
So it's not like it was 7 years ago when everybody was.
What can a potential builder do to help move the process along? I mean,
Builder?
Well, let's say the home buyer.
Have their financial documents clean, don't change jobs, don't rock the boat, you know, just have their ducks in a row, and do not, our biggest delay is sometimes change orders.
Change order, what's the change order?
Change orders when you have your plans and specifications all done, the builder's building, and you're walking through the home and you're saying, you know what, it'd be great to have recessed lighting all over the dining room, and of course the builder's got to call an electrician, or else they want to move a room or move a wall. That's those can delay the process.
Have you ever had an architect or a builder quit on you in the middle of the process? Has that ever happened?
We've had builders go bankrupt.
Okay.
Nobody's ever really quit.
Okay, so they were
Purposely,
bankrupt.
but we've had a few that have gone bankrupt. Luckily, you know, with our connections with our bank, we have contractors we can hustle up and get in there and finish the house to specifications.
Well, that brings up a good point. How much should a potential builder research? I'm sorry, a potential buyer research their builder?
How much they should do? A lot.
A lot. If they don't go through you or go through one of your recommendations.
Regardless, they should call up the previous clients of the builder, find out how it went. The builder's going to give you, you know, all the best customers. You're going to have to do a little digging, and maybe there's some not so happy customers. But we rely on the consumer to do